You're exhausted, but not just in your body. Your soul feels heavy, doesn't it? Like you've been carrying a weight no one else can see, always trying to hold the world together to be everyone's anchor. But what if I told you the very thing you think is goodness might be what's breaking you? You've played by the rules, you've smiled when it hurt, bit your tongue to keep the peace, apologized when you weren't even wrong. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that being kind, polite, and agreeable was the golden path to happiness. That if you were generous, fair, humble, and good, then life would reward you. They told you that goodness would be enough. But now deep down, you're starting to realize something feels off. The equation isn't adding up. You've done everything right, and still you feel invisible. Still overlooked, still unappreciated. So here's the uncomfortable truth. What if it was all a lie? A comfortable, sweet-sounding lie designed to keep you tame, predictable, easily managed. Think about it. How many times have you stayed silent just to avoid conflict? How many times have you erased yourself, your opinions, your needs, so you wouldn't disappoint anyone? How many times have you swallowed your pride, your pain, your power, just to be seen as good? And what did that get you? Ignored, taken for granted, disrespected, used. You smiled and said, "It's fine," while your soul screamed for someone to notice your worth. But here's the truth the world won't admit. The world doesn't reward the kind. It rewards the strategic. And that's why you're here, because you've felt it. You've tried to be the good guy, the understanding friend, the selfless giver, and you're tired. Tired of watching others less kind than you climb higher. Be admired, be respected, while you remain in the shadows clinging to a code of honor that the world doesn't recognize. This isn't about becoming cruel or heartless. It's about waking up. It's about recognizing that morality without boundaries is a trap. That being seen as good isn't the same as being seen as strong, wise, or worthy. And that's where Niccolo Machiavelli comes in. He wasn't the monster history made him out to be. He wasn't glorifying evil. He was unveiling reality. He dared to write what others feared to say: power doesn't respond to niceness. It responds to strength. In this video, we're going to strip away the illusions. No filters, no masks. We're going to talk honestly about why constantly trying to be the good person is not only exhausting, it's dangerous. It puts your worth in the hands of others. It makes you a prisoner of your own need to be accepted. And if you're already feeling used, dismissed, discarded, maybe it's time to shift. Maybe it's time to learn what Machiavelli understood centuries ago, that influence is earned not through passivity, but through presence, through power. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Let me ask you, do you still believe that the world values goodness above all? Look around. Who gets promoted? Who commands attention? Who holds influence? Are they the kindest, the most selfless, the most morally upright? Or are they the ones who speak boldly, move strategically, and refuse to be controlled? The truth is brutal but necessary. The world is not ruled by kindness. It is ruled by utility. And if you don't know how to position yourself, you'll be left behind. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to corrupt people. He wrote it to show how the game is played. And one of the harshest lessons he gave us is this: being good is not enough. In fact, being good is often the fastest way to be forgotten. You could spend your life being generous, faithful, and selfless. But the moment you are no longer useful, the world will move on without blinking. No thank you, no recognition, no guilt. Because your value is measured not by your heart, but by your influence, your impact, your presence. Have you noticed this? That the nice ones always seem to be running behind, explaining themselves, seeking approval, begging for space. Meanwhile, those who set boundaries, who say no without guilt, who carry themselves with quiet power, they are the ones who are heard. Why? Because blind kindness is interpreted as weakness. Because if you never confront, you're never a threat. And if you're never a threat, you're not taken seriously. You become a tool, a resource, not a person. And the worst part, you did it to yourself. In your effort to be accepted, you forgot to be respected. You gave and gave, hoping to earn love, support, and fairness, but instead you became replaceable, easily dismissed. Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler must choose, if necessary, between being loved or feared. And his conclusion was clear: if you must choose, choose fear. What he really meant is this: respect is born not from likability, but from power. People respect those who stand firm, who won't be walked over, who carry weight in any room they enter. This applies to you. If you keep molding yourself to be agreeable, to be liked, to avoid offending anyone, you'll keep being overlooked. Not because you're unworthy, but because you have trained the world to see you as disposable. It's time to unlearn that, to trace the root of your people-pleasing tendencies. Because behind every nice guy mask is something deeper, a fear of rejection, a fear of being seen as selfish, a fear of losing love. But you weren't born with that fear. It was planted. You were conditioned from childhood, taught that love had a cost. Approval came with sacrifices. You heard phrases like, "Don't be rude, be nice. Don't talk back," and over time you began to shrink. You learned to perform goodness like a role, smiling when it hurt, staying silent when you had something to say, saying yes when every part of you wanted to scream no. You traded authenticity for acceptance, and now you wonder why you feel so lost. This isn't just about behavior, it's about identity, about reclaiming your voice, about learning to say I matter too. Because being good doesn't mean being invisible. It means knowing your value and refusing to let anyone overlook it. In the next part, we'll go even deeper. We'll explore the psychological roots of chronic people-pleasing, why it forms, how it hides behind kindness, and most importantly, how to break free from it. If what you're hearing speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe and join this journey. You're not alone. Many of us were taught to be obedient instead of empowered. But the tide is turning, and it begins with truth. So ask yourself, are you living to be liked, or are you ready to be respected? In the last part, we uncovered how the world doesn't reward blind kindness. It rewards strength, clarity, and strategic presence. But where does this need to please come from? Why do so many of us struggle to say no without guilt? Let's peel back the curtain on the conditioning that has shaped your identity more than you realize. From the moment you were young, you were placed in a system, a psychological prison, really. One built not of walls, but of sweet-sounding punishments, compliments laced with control, rules disguised as love. You learned early that if you pleased others, you'd be rewarded with affection. But if you dared to show anger, asserted your needs, or stood up for yourself, you risked rejection. So you did what any human mind is hardwired to do under pressure. You adapted. You survived. But what was once a survival tactic slowly turned into a personality. Over time, your ability to adapt mutated into silent submission. Now, even as an adult, you flinch at the idea of saying no. Guilt clings to you like a shadow every time you try to set a boundary. You feel like it's your job to protect everyone else's peace, even when yours is being shattered. You suppress your frustration until it turns into fatigue. You swallow your disappointments, often forgiving too quickly just to keep the peace. You smile, nod, and carry burdens that were never yours to bear, just to keep up the image others expect of you. But here's the truth. This isn't kindness. This is fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of being unloved. Fear of being seen as selfish, difficult, or bad. Fear of revealing your true self, flawed, passionate, angry, opinionated, powerful. So instead, you hide behind what society applauds: empathy, politeness, humility. But what if I told you those virtues, when rooted in fear instead of authenticity, become masks? You call it empathy, but it's really fear of confrontation. You call it understanding, but it's a fear of abandonment. You call it kindness, but deep down it's the fear of not being enough. What you've labeled as goodness is often just a survival strategy. A shield you've worn for so long it's fused with your identity. But that shield comes at a devastating price. It chokes your authenticity, it drains your power, it erodes your dignity. And if you don't begin to take it off, it will stick to your skin until you forget who you really are underneath it. One day you'll look in the mirror and feel lost. Not because you failed, but because you disappeared. But there is a way back. And to find it, we turn once again to someone who understood the invisible war between image perception and influence better than most: Machiavelli. In the next part, we'll dive deep into his timeless lessons from The Prince and what they can teach you about escaping the prison of people-pleasing, how to stop being a hostage to your need to be liked, how to reclaim respect without sacrificing your integrity. Let's be clear, if you're living your life trying to prove your goodness, hoping others will one day reward your ethics and morality, stop. Machiavelli warned us more than 5 centuries ago. This path is beautiful but dangerous. In the real world, it is not the good who win. It is the effective who win. Effectiveness requires more than good intentions. It demands strategy, a sharp mind, an understanding of what truly drives people, not your purity, but their perception. People don't act based on your heart. They act based on their interests, their fears, their sense of who holds power. That's why Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few feel what you really are." That sentence hits like a thunderbolt, doesn't it? Because it exposes the lie we've all been told that being true, pure, and sincere will automatically earn you respect. It won't. Not unless that truth comes wrapped in confidence, in power, in presence. You can be the kindest soul in the world, but if you appear timid, you'll be treated as weak. You can be endlessly generous, but if you don't command respect, you'll be dismissed. And that brings us to a crucial revelation. You are the prince. You are the one navigating a world filled with traps, illusions, predators, and power struggles. And if you want to reclaim control of your life, you cannot be naive. Machiavelli urged the prince to appear virtuous when convenient and be strategic when necessary. He spoke of a metaphor that remains powerfully relevant, the fox and the lion. The prince must learn to be both a fox to recognize traps and a lion to terrify the wolves. The fox is cunning, quiet. It sees what others miss, avoids danger before it strikes. The lion is bold, fearless. It stands tall, commanding the space it occupies. Machiavelli didn't say choose one, he said be both. Know when to observe in silence and when to roar. Recognize manipulation and become someone who cannot be manipulated. That is how you become respected, not through submissiveness, not through silence, not through martyrdom masked as virtue. The virtue Machiavelli teaches is not the passive kind praised in fairy tales. It is real-world virtue, a powerful blend of courage, intelligence, self-mastery, and boldness. Sometimes being perceived as too nice is a liability. Sometimes you must act with calculated coldness, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Machiavelli says, "A man who acts like a good man in all circumstances is bound for ruin among those who are not good." And if you're honest with yourself, you've been that man or woman. You've tried to be good in every situation. And what did it get you? Disrespect, disappointment, disillusionment. Because people don't play fair. And if you continue to act as though they do, you will always lose. But hear this doesn't mean you must abandon your values. It means you must stop using them as chains. It's time to wield them like tools strategically, wisely, powerfully. Think about how your goodness has been used against you, how your silence became condescent, how your forgiveness became permission, how your empathy became weakness in their eyes. Machiavelli wasn't cynical, he was clear-eyed. He didn't romanticize humanity, he revealed its patterns. The prince wasn't a guide to becoming evil. It was a manual for surviving in a world that runs on perception, not purity. And perhaps now a question has begun to rise inside you. Is there a way to balance this? Can I stop being naive without turning cold or cruel? Yes. And in the next part, we'll dismantle the false choice society has handed you that you must either be kind or be ruthless. There is a third way, a path that honors your integrity but refuses to sacrifice your power. A path where you no longer betray yourself in the name of keeping others comfortable. It begins not with revenge or rebellion, but with clarity and the strength to stop lying to yourself. Because here's the final truth of this chapter. Being good does not require being submissive. You were never meant to carry everyone's burdens. You were never meant to shrink so others could shine. You were never meant to destroy yourself in the name of peace. That's not kindness. That's not strength. That's naivety. And it ends now. Previously, we exposed the hidden cost of kindness rooted in fear, a kindness that silences your truth and sacrifices your dignity. Now let's confront what that really is, not virtue, but surrender. It's cowardice dressed up as virtue, and as long as you don't recognize that difference, you'll continue to be life's emotional doormat. Stepped on, worn out, forgotten. True kindness doesn't require you to erase yourself. It doesn't demand that you smile through pain, stay silent in the face of disrespect, or give endlessly to those who give you nothing in return. No, real kindness is not slavery. It is strength. It's grounded in awareness and clarity and choice. Being good does not mean being a cheerful fool, always available, always accommodating, always sacrificing for people who wouldn't lift a finger if the roles were reversed. That isn't virtue. That's self-abandonment. It's emotional dependence in disguise wearing the mask of morality. You've been led to believe that if you have a kind heart, others will treat you the same. That if you show loyalty, integrity, and empathy, the world will recognize and repay that. But that's naivety, not nobility. Naivety imagines a world where fairness is automatic, where good deeds guarantee good outcomes, where reciprocity is the rule. And when life doesn't work that way, naivety becomes bitter. It drowns in disappointment, haunted by unmet expectations and unspoken pain. Why? Because it keeps projecting its own goodness onto people who don't share it. But there's a different kind of kindness, one rooted not in fear but in truth. True kindness is firm. It knows how to say no. It knows when to walk away. It understands that not everyone deserves your best, and giving your best to people who offer nothing in return is not generosity, it's waste. And that waste drains you. You can be compassionate, just sincere, and still be respected. Still be someone who commands space. Someone who stands tall, sets clear boundaries, and holds others accountable. You can be kind and still be feared in the best way. Feared not because you're cruel, but because you're clear, because you don't bend. Machiavelli, though often misinterpreted, never hated virtue. What he despised was naivety. He understood a hard truth in a world full of predators. Kindness without strength is just fresh meat. So ask yourself, right now, is your kindness protecting you? Or is it exposing you? Is it strengthening your spirit, or is it slowly destroying you from within? Because if your idea of being good means swallowing injustice, accepting crumbs, silencing your needs, and shaming yourself for feeling anger, then you're not being good, you're being dominated. But here's the turning point. There is an antidote. There is a middle ground, a space of balance and inner power. A place where you don't have to betray your essence, and you don't have to kneel before anyone either. Where you can act with courage, clarity, and emotional intelligence. And in the next part, we'll explore this path in depth. We'll discuss how to stop being nice without turning into someone cold or bitter. Because true strength doesn't come from becoming someone else. It comes from returning to yourself fully, unapologetically. This is the beginning of your transformation. Now, many people, after waking up from years of submission, fall into a dangerous trap. They swing to the opposite extreme. From being overly nice to becoming cold, detached, even cruel. They believe the only way to never be used again is to harden themselves completely. It's what we call the rebound effect. After years of being the pleaser, the pushover, the peacemaker, you think the only way to survive is to build walls so high no one can reach you. But that too is a trap. Because when you abandon your heart, when you kill your tenderness just to feel safe, you are not becoming powerful. You're just living in denial. You're protecting yourself not with strength, but with trauma disguised as toughness. And that isn't freedom. That's another kind of prison. True liberation comes when you choose to be whole. When you stop acting for others and start acting for yourself. When you stop bending your truth to fit into spaces that were never made for you. When you finally stop asking for permission to exist. This journey isn't about being good or bad. It's about being real. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing, yes, I am kind, but I will never again be passive. Yes, I'm compassionate, but I will no longer be permissive. Yes, I can give, but I will not beg. Not for love, not for space, not for validation. So how do you stop being nice without betraying your true self? First, you must realize that your voice matters. You've been conditioned to think that expressing needs is selfish, that setting boundaries is rude, that standing up for yourself is unkind. But that's the real lie. The real selfishness is expecting you to live in silence while others walk all over you. Speaking up is not aggression, it's dignity. Saying, I don't accept this is not rebellion, it's self-respect. Second, start practicing the word that will set you free. No, it doesn't have to be shouted. It doesn't have to be explained. A quiet, calm, unwavering no carries more power than 1,000 apologies. Because it says something critical. I have limits. I matter. And those who have limits are respected. Those who don't, they're used. Third, pay attention to who gets uncomfortable when you change. If your new strength bothers someone, it's likely because your weakness used to serve them. They benefited from your silence, your guilt, your self-sacrifice. Now that you're shifting the dynamic, they're losing their advantage. And that discomfort, that resistance, it's not a problem, it's a signal you're growing. Fourth, stop needing everyone to understand you. Not everyone will. Some will cling to the old version of you, the one who always gave in, stayed quiet, played small. But you owe no loyalty to that image. You owe loyalty to your truth, your peace, your emotional health. Fifth, and most importantly, trade your obsession with being accepted for a deep commitment to being authentic. Yes, it may disappoint some people, but it will attract the right ones, the ones who see your worth without needing you to shrink. And even more importantly, you will start to respect yourself. And that kind of respect, no one can take that away. Machiavelli never asked you to be cruel. He asked you to stop being naive. The greatest naivety is believing that kindness alone is enough to win in this world. It's not. It takes courage to leave behind the role of the people pleaser. It takes boldness to be who you are without asking for permission. But if you've made it this far, then you're ready. Because now comes the decisive moment, the choice that separates those who merely survive from those who finally rise. Will you keep sacrificing yourself for approval, or will you take control? And the final part will deliver a direct, honest, and necessary wake-up call. A brutal truth. Your obsession with being good might be costing you everything. It's time to choose. Do you want to be loved, or do you want to be free? We ended the last part by confronting a hard truth. Your obsession with being good might be the very thing that's destroying you. So now comes the question. How long will you keep playing the role? How long will you keep pretending to be the nice guy? How much longer will you keep pouring out your energy, silencing your voice, and surrendering your dignity just to maintain an image that was never yours to begin with? Whose approval are you really chasing? You see this image of the good person, calm, agreeable endlessly. Understanding was crafted by others, shaped by expectations, reinforced by praise. You were applauded not for your strength, not for your truth, but for being harmless, predictable, easily managed. And they called it virtue. They called it nobility. But let's be honest, it's a prison dressed up in politeness and empty compliments. A cage padded with phrases like, "You're so nice, you're so easy to be around. You never cause problems." You became the person who never threatens, never challenges, never disrupts the peace, even when the peace is killing you. And here's what most won't say out loud. No one is going to come save you from this. There is no applause waiting for you at the end of this sacrifice. No reward for being agreeable. No one is going to walk into your life, thank you for all you've given, restore your dignity, and say, now you can rest. That moment isn't coming. Because as long as you allow yourself to be used, someone will use you. It's not necessarily cruelty, it's just the nature of reality. And reality doesn't care about good intentions. You can continue playing the part society handed you, calm, patient, selfless, always available, saying yes. And where will that lead you? A life of quiet frustration, a heart full of resentment, a presence so gentle it becomes invisible. Or you can wake up. You can decide right now that your kindness is no longer a chain around your neck, that you're not here to be light. You're here to live fully, truthfully, unapologetically. You can begin to act with clarity, with boundaries, with power. You can choose who deserves your generosity and when to give it. You can stop handing out your energy to people who would never return it. You can slay living like a musk, chasing after affection, desperate for approval that should have never had to be earned. Because here's the truth. The world respects those who respect themselves. And freedom begins the moment you stop asking for permission to exist. So let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you said no without apologizing? When was the last time you made a decision that put you first without guilt? When was the last time you did something simply because it mattered to you without caring how others might perceive it? Write it in the comments. Seriously, I want to hear from you. What was the moment when you realized that being nice was slowly destroying your spirit? Because here's what you need to understand. You're not alone. There are thousands, millions of people living in the same emotional cage. And your story, your voice might be the one that finally helps someone else wake up. This isn't just a video. This is a movement of awakening. And if anything in this message stirred something inside you, if it made you pause, reflect, or rethink the way you've been living, then you need to watch the next one. Because this journey you have just begun, it's not a quick fix. It's a deep transformation. And what's coming next will challenge you even more, but it will also liberate you. Trust me, you don't want to stop here. The journey is just beginning.